Hi guys, this is Hiro. How's everyone doing today? Ajabala Kimcho, Aj Sub Kesiho. Today, I'm going over Saturn's transit in Aquarius retrograde. Okay. Also, I got a new phone. Okay, it's a very nice phone, but this is the first time I'm recording a video on this camera, so hopefully it turns out okay. Now, this transit occurs between June 17th and November 4th. Okay. This transit of Saturn in Aquarius, also known as Kumbha Rasi in Vedic astrology, mainly happens in the Nakshrata of Satabhisha. Okay, at the very, very, very end of this transit, yes, it technically moves into Dhanisha Nakshrata, but for most of it, it is in Satabhisha Nakshrata, which is ruled by Rahu. Now, why is this retrograde transit of Saturn, in my opinion, extra important than most of the time it goes retrograde? Because it goes retrograde once a year, but this one is very, very, very significant. Yes, it has to do with the fact that Saturn is in its own main sign of Aquarius, but there are also a couple other components here, right? Which is the fact that Ketu aspects Saturn with its fifth aspect, and then Saturn aspects Rahu and Jupiter, which is third aspect. And the aspect by Ketu on Saturn, it completely changes because Saturn is retrograde. Okay, so I'll discuss more about that right now. So just in general, Saturn, we know, owns Capricorn and Aquarius. Now, Aquarius comes out, after Capricorn. So Saturn's, both of its signs are back to back. So when it's in Aquarius, not only is Aquarius Saturn's main sign, but it's extra strong because it just finished going through its other sign, right? So Saturn's in a super duper hot spot here. But one thing you got to remember, when planets transit through signs, there's a certain flow, okay? And if you want to understand more about that flow, you can watch my All Astrology Signs video, okay? I think I did a pretty good job on explaining the flow of the signs. However, when planets go retrograde, they're going against the flow. And you can watch my retrograde video for more information on that, okay? But real quick, I'll explain the flow of Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces just because it's really important here. So Capricorn, for example, is all about discipline, right? Now, you use that discipline to do Aquarius things, which is more like external karma. So if you have the discipline established from Capricorn, then you transition into Aquarius and you can do external karma and stuff like that. And then once your karmas are done, you move on to Pisces and detach, right? And just to, yeah, I'll just leave it at that, okay? Now, when planets are going the opposite way, things are happening very suddenly, okay? So for example, if something's going the other way, let's just say it starts at Pisces. So you detach, right? Things happen very suddenly when planets are retrograde because they're going against the grain. So I'll leave it at that. So let's just say Pisces, right? You got to detach. Now, once you detach, you have no choice, really. You're kind of flat on your ass, you could say, to fulfill the karmas that Aquarius wants you to do. And then because you're kind of thrown into the situation of Aquarius, you have no choice but to move on to the next sign backwards, which is Capricorn, which is, okay, once you're thrown into all this karmic stuff, you got to be disciplined in yourself, right, in order to do it properly. So this is why when it comes to retrograde planets, but especially you might notice in general, everybody with Rahu, Ketu, they're really challenging you, right? Because they're going kind of against the grain. So this is why also when people say a retrograde sign behaves, a planet in retrograde in a sign behaves like it's in the opposite sign, there is some truth to that. But the truth behind it, it's not just it blindly behaves. Like Saturn in Aquarius does not just blindly behave like it's in Leo, right? What happens is if you look at it, the flow backwards in this situation, okay, yeah, sure, it's in Aquarius and there's all this karmic external karmas and things like that. What does Leo represent? Leo represents more like self-fulfilling things. So when Saturn's in Aquarius, it's like, hey, what am I getting out of this? Because I got to go to Capricorn next, which is all about, me establishing discipline for myself. So I hope that made sense. And, if you have any questions, you can always ask me later, but I'm going to move on with this point. Now, so that's kind of the general gist of Saturn in Aquarius retrograde at a glance, okay? Saturn in Aquarius, There's a lot of external karmas going on, but because it's retrograde, it's more karmic. You're kind of a little bit focused on the deeper, I'm not going to say selfish motive, but what are you kind of, how is it serving you also? You're thinking about that, right? In the long run. And the reason why also is because any planet on any sign axis, it's going to influence the other side. This is why all planets throw a seventh aspect, because like, for example, Gemini and Sagittarius is all about learning. Gemini is all about self-effort. So your self-efforts are always going to affect how much you learn, and what you learn always is going to affect your self-efforts. Okay, so that energy, because it's retrograde, it's also going to be a little bit stronger between Aquarius and Leo. Now, moving forward to the next point, Ketu throws a fifth aspect onto Saturn, right? Now we know Ketu is all about past life karmas, and I just made a video on Ketu True Understanding, which I think I provide a little bit of a different perspective, so you can watch that for more information. But we know Ketu has a lot to do with past life stuff, okay? So Saturn in this position that I just described, now you have this Ketu throwing a fifth aspect onto Saturn. And the fifth aspect naturally is, or fifth house in general represents past life. So when things, but Saturn is all about like karma right now, right? So Ketu, because of that fifth aspect on Saturn, when things happen karmically out of Saturn, right? So you're got all this stuff suddenly to do karmically with others, possibly, and you're kind of discovering and seeing how it's affecting you also. Ketu's kind of going to throw a little bit of awareness on that. Like, oh, how is this affecting, like, or what is this kind of making me notice the karmas I'm doing now, what I did or did not do in a past life, right? Because we know, and I did touch a little bit on this on my Ketu video, but I'll touch it again, that what you bring from the past that always affects the now. In past life aside, just even in this, right? How you were at 15 is going to affect you at 25. How you were at 30 is going to affect you at 40, etc. So definitely with past life, especially from a spiritual consciousness standpoint and karmic standpoint and all that, what you brought from the past is going to affect right now. So yeah, basically what you're doing right now is affected by what you were or were not doing in the past. Now, a lot of us are not too conscious of this, especially when it comes to stuff before this birth. But this position of Ketu throwing a fifth aspect on Saturn is going to make you a little bit more aware of that, which is good. And one other thing, whenever Ketu or Rahu throws a fifth aspect onto Saturn, Saturn throws a third aspect onto the other one of the two. Okay, so in this situation, Ketu throws a fifth aspect onto Saturn, and Saturn's throwing a third aspect onto Rahu. And also, not only is Saturn in its own sign, but getting a fifth aspect from Ketu, so also therefore throwing a third aspect on Rahu. Ketu is in Saturn's exaltation sign, and Jupiter happens to be sitting with Rahu. Okay, so when Saturn is throwing its third aspect onto Rahu, and when Ketu throws the fifth aspect onto Saturn versus Rahu, Ketu's past life fifth aspect is much stronger on Saturn. Okay, especially in this situation where Saturn's in its own main sign, retrograde, and Ketu is in Saturn's exaltation sign. Okay, but now Saturn throwing the third aspect onto Rahu with Jupiter there. So I just said Ketu's aspect is showing what you did or did not do, or what you should or should not have done kind of in past life. Now, you're realizing that through Saturn, which is what you're kind of being forced to do right now karmically, but also because of Saturn's third aspect and this whole situation, you're seeing, okay, what should or I should not do in this life going forward, or yeah, what I should do or what I should not do, or what I could do or what I could not do. From especially with Jupiter kind of throwing that consciousness there, you can see basically how your karma can unfold in the best way in this life. But it's going to happen more through the sudden things that occur because Saturn is retrograde in Aquarius, right? It's kind of like when you go through unique situations in life, you learn. When you go through sudden situations in life, you learn, which is what, retrograde could represent in general. So in this situation, I talked a little bit about how Saturn is in Aquarius retrograde, but because of its unique situation, and because of Ketu and Rahu's and a little bit Jupiter's combined positions with respect to Saturn here, you could not only get a sense of what you like, what's the best right now, but what's the best in the past and what's the best for the future, okay? Or what was not the best for the past and what might not be the best for the future, okay? So this is a great time to get aware, to get aware of all that. A lot of you guys, you love to learn about your past life and Ketu and stuff like that, and I made videos on that. So just to recap, some of the important videos that I would recommend are Ketu True Understanding, all signs made simple, because that's going to explain the flow of the signs, the retrograde video also, and my past life video. Okay, so those 4 I would recommend if there's something, just to clear up, if there's something that you want more in detail about with regard to this transit. Okay, but and I make those videos on purpose, so that way in videos like this I don't have to start from scratch. I can just say, hey, just look at that for more information on this topic, so I don't have to say everything 1,000 times in every single transit video going forward. But I think that's going to be it for this video, okay? Just one other real quick thing. I did say how Saturn, it's in Aquarius. So obviously on the opposite side of Aquarius is Leo. And because it's retrograde, Leo's going to affect, Leo energies are going to affect Saturn more. So anytime a planet crosses through Leo, and, all of the planets that transit signs on average at least every half a year are going to go through Leo. So that's Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and Moon, of course. They are all going through Leo. So when they all each go through Leo individually or combined in some fashion, they will affect Saturn accordingly. But I hope by this point in my videos that you kind of have an idea of how those will affect Saturn a little bit. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And a little bit, Sun in general, its transits will affect Saturn a little bit because Sun does own Leo, okay? But I trust you guys that you guys will figure that part out on your own. And especially because I have resources on how to, become aware of that kind of stuff, right? Like I said, the more you go in internally with your own consciousness, it's like connecting to the spiritual internet, and then you become aware of all these little details, right? All the minor details, yeah, you can't ask me, of course, but there's always going to be little details that might hit you differently or something like that, or that you have a greater chance of understanding with regard to yourself, because that's just how it is, okay? This whole science, in my opinion, it's meant to help you uncover, consciousness for yourself and see how all this plays out, okay? And how you can elevate. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, you can feel free to let me know. And until next time, I'll talk to everyone later. Thank you all very, very, very much for watching.